Join Sid for this edition of It's Supernatural.
Hello, Sid Roth here. Welcome to my world, where it's naturally supernatural. My guest, Perry Stone, since age 16, has been studying heaven, end times. He has spent well over 100,000 hours, and he has come up with revelations that, as far as scholars are concerned, no one has ever come up with before about heaven and end times. He even has come up with a revelation about the 2016 presidential election. Anyone interested? You know, when I found out that Perry Stone was working on the subject of heaven and New Jerusalem, I got so excited. I can't even tell you why I got so excited, but I got so excited I had to have him on this show. But I'm told an event occurred when you were 16 years of age that started you on this quest.
Salem High School, Andrew Lewis High School, Salem, Virginia, a boy came up to me about 16 years of age. I was 16. And I was preaching at that time, just as a kid preacher, and I had a big Bible with me. He said, "Preacher man, what are you going to do when you die and find out there's not a heaven?" I was always real quick to answer, and I said, "Jimmy, what you going to do when you die and find out there's a hell?" But what happened is it stirred me, and I thought, how would I prove to somebody, kind of more from a scientific perspective, that there is a place called heaven? And so that's what really started my journey, and it's been exciting to, even over the years, even recently, to add more to what God showed me.
Oh, you got revelations. We're going to share some of them. But here's what I want you to help me with, and I think you're going to help a lot of other people. Take me very briefly on a prophetic timeline, starting where we are right now.
Okay. Right now we're in the church age, which is called the dispensation of the grace of God. It will continue and climax at the time of the rapture. Now, I lean toward pre-trib because of a lot of research over the years that we have done. Now let's just assume this is correct. Then what we have at that point is a tribulation period, which in Daniel 9:27 is set for 7 years. It's divided into 42 months and 42 months. So what would happen is the return of the Lord, and I like to say it this way, for the overcoming saints who are looking for Him. When that happens, it triggers a time of tribulation on the earth, which is a total of 7 years. During the 7 years, the saints will be in heaven getting rewards, and also we will enjoy what's called a marriage supper of the Lamb during those 7 years in heaven. On earth, there's judgments, there's the revelation of the Antichrist, there's the mark of the beast. There's a lot of the population of the earth that is eliminated by, some of it's just natural calamities, asteroids, earthquakes, etc. We come to the end of the tribulation and we have the Lord returning. Revelation 19 says it, on a white horse is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And then He sets up His kingdom in Jerusalem for 1,000 years. That's where we get the word millennial reign. That's 1,000. And during that 1,000 years, the saints of God are going to rule on earth with Him for 1,000 years. At the end of it, Satan is loosed for a season. Now, the only reason he's loosed, Sid, because this has perplexed people. Why don't God keep him bound? Because in the millennial reign, there will be people on earth who will continue to repopulate the earth that have never been tempted, tested, or tried by Satan. So God's going to let earthly people who are living in the tribulation, who have survived and repopulated, to be tested to see if they're going to be faithful to the Lord or follow Satan. That's the last test. Then when that is over, the Bible tells us there's a great white throne judgment in heaven, and then Satan is bound forever in the lake of fire, which is going to be a tremendous day for everyone who is a believer, of course. The new heaven and new earth come down after the great white throne judgment. At this judgment, every single angel that's fallen, Satan himself, plus all saints, all unbelievers, all are in heaven at one time. Now, we've already been judged as believers at the judgment seat of Christ, okay? That's in Revelation chapter 11. But the world and the sinners have not been judged. God is never going to condemn anyone in eternity without Him in, let's say, the lake of fire, without them absolutely seeing and knowing the reason why. That's why there's a great white throne judgment.
You know, Perry, you teach on the mysteries, unlocking the mysteries of heaven, past, present, and future. Explain.
the Holy Spirit put something together for me that I had never heard taught in my life. I believe it can be proven from Ezekiel 28, from the book of Revelation, from Isaiah 14, that Lucifer, who we know as Satan, before he fell, was assisting God in the building of the New Jerusalem. The fall of Lucifer took place before the New Jerusalem was completed. And I'll get into that later. Now, that's called ages past. Creation as we know it with man is 6,000. What a lot of people don't realize is there's what's called ages past. And ages past is, okay, when was Lucifer created? When were the angels created? He was in heaven as a cherub before he fell. When was that? When did the rebellion take place where he took a third of the angels and they fell with him? That's the ages past part. In fact, I'm going to throw a nugget out here for all your folks. In the Bible, it says hell was prepared for the devil and his angels. But when was hell prepared? Scientists say that the earth was one time molten fire and water cooled it, and that's how the process began. In Genesis 1:1, the earth is created perfect. You've studied Hebrew. You know that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The tense there is complete perfection. Like a perfect, it's done.
Right.
Verse 2, everything is without form and void. The fall of Lucifer happened between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2 in ages past.
So in ages past, there is a gap, and we don't even know how long that was.
That's exactly what I'm saying. We don't know how long the gap is. And that explains, if I can, the controversy as to why Christians say there's a 6,000-year-old earth. Scientists say it's a 4 billion-year-old earth.
There's an answer for everything.
There absolutely is an answer if we understand the fall of Lucifer and the gap of Genesis 1:1 and 1:2 and the time frame there.
Let's go to some basics.
Yeah.
Where's heaven located?
If you look at Isaiah chapter 14, Satan says, I will ascend into heaven above the stars of God and above the clouds in the sides of the north. The northern part of heaven is very unique because there's a star there called the North Star, or Polaris, which sits just a little bit off of true north. Anytime you needed direction, you had to find the North Star. Anytime a ship needed direction, you find the North Star. It's the directional star. What is interesting, Job said God stretches the north over the empty place, but he hangs the earth on nothing. Two scientific facts there. This is what I learned when I was 16. One is the earth is hanging on nothing, but what's this thing about the north being an empty place? I have a friend of mine I have several friends who work for NASA, and they say it's really true that in the northern part of the heavens, there's an empty place and there's a gap. It's just an empty, a darkness, a gap. All right, the Bible indicates that. North is the only place where you look really true up. All right, so heaven is in the north. Now, number two, Isaiah said, or it was Satan talking, but Isaiah wrote it, I'll ascend above the clouds, above the stars, in the sides of the north. That's three heavens. Paul in 2 Corinthians.
I heard about second heaven. How many heavens are there?
The Bible tells you of three. There are three heavens, and the Bible indicates specifically what those three are. Clouds, stars, then the end of the stars, that begins the third heaven. That's where God dwells, is in the third heaven.
And where's the devil dwell and his demons?
Let me say it this way. Adam was given dominion over the fowls of the air. The birds, if you ever see it, fly in the sky up near the clouds. So man has dominion of the first heaven. That's why we have airplanes that aren't falling out of the sky. The devil's not knocking airplanes out of the sky. We can fly. We have dominion. We have satellites. Number two, however, is Satan rules in the realm of the second heaven. Principalities, rulers of darkness in high places are second heaven. Third heaven is where God rules. So it's interesting how that between where we are to where God is, we have this spiritual warfare going on. Here's the part that just absolutely stunned. I love this part. Jesus, when he returns, doesn't come back up in the stars, and we have to meet him where the stars are. He comes right back into Satan's territory and snatches us out so fast that the enemy doesn't even know it's happened till it's over with.
I'm going to tell you something. I want you to talk about never revealed. No scholars have ever heard this. Revelations you have got about the mountain in heaven, the stones in heaven, about Lucifer. We'll be right back.
If you love watching our It's Supernatural TV program, you can now watch hundreds of archive programs online, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, on your computer, your smartphone, your iPad, or your favorite tablet.
ISN will be the vehicle to equip you to being normal. Normal as defined by the Bible.
Just log on to sidroth.org/ISN.
Harry, tell me about the earliest stages of creating the heavens and the earth.
Okay. In the beginning of time, and let me just read this verse because this is our foundational verse. God says to this person, "You have been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. The sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of your tabrets and pipes was prepared in thee the day that thou was created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth." And he says this, "I have set thee so upon the holy mountain of God, and you've walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. You were perfect in your ways until iniquity was found in you, and then thy heart was lifted up because of thy beauty." Now, there's a couple things here. Number one, it mentions the mountain of God. This is not Jerusalem. This is the heavenly mountain where God dwells. Number two, it mentions Eden. Now, people assume this is the Garden of Eden. This is not the Garden of Eden. There is a heavenly paradise or a heavenly Eden, just like there was an earthly Eden. All right, number three. Now, this is the part puzzled me for years. This is where it starts making sense. You are the anointed cherub. This is a cherub that's anointed. No other angel is called anointed but this angel right here. The thing that really got me was you have walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. So let me tell you how this happened. So I'm with a guy in Texas, a pastor in Texas, who works with gemstones. And he says to me, he says this, "You know, every gemstone is formed in fire." I went, whoa.
Mountain of fire.
Yeah.
Stones of fire.
Thank you. And then I go to this Jewish translation of the Bible, and I apologize for not giving you which one it is because there's many translations. And it says, "You walked up and down in the gemstones of fire." I go, whoa. Now, then I'm thinking, okay, this is Satan. This is a picture. Most scholars will agree this is Satan. He was a worship leader because pipes were created him to sing. But he's got 9 stones. Now, here's what's odd. These same stones are the same 9 that are also part of the 12 stones on the breastplate of the priest in Exodus. These 9 stones are also said, and this is where the triggering came. This is where, man, it starts clicking. 9 of the 12 stones in the city New Jerusalem.
So we have 12 stones on the breastplate of the
That's right.
We have in New Jerusalem, there's 12 stones. So how come Satan only had 9?
That's what got me asking this. All right. Then I realized this. Every precious stone is your covering. Now, I used to think he had a breastplate with 9 stones. That's how I took this because I'm thinking, okay, this is similar. Wait a minute. But it doesn't say anything here. It just says it was your covering. And I'm thinking, that word in Hebrew, cover, what's it mean? Okay, watch this. It means there were gemstones on his fingers, gemstones on his arm, gemstones on his... But wait a minute, he's only got 9. Why 9? You ready? Because Satan was the one, this angel was walking up and down in the midst of the stones of fire, preparing the stones for the holy city, New Jerusalem. Watch this. Every time a floor, first floor, second floor is completed, God allows him to be covered by that gemstone. But do you know what stones are missing from him? No. Ready? The last 3 stories of the New Jerusalem. I hear him going, oh, in the audience. They're getting it. He fell from heaven and was cast out between the 9th and 10th story being completed. He completed the 9th, but he never... Now, why? Because he was lifted up because of his beauty.
This show is a little different because we previously got our people from Facebook to writing questions that they had. They came up with some great questions. Brian, why don't you give us a question?
The first question is, what will we remember in heaven?
Then the Bible says this, it says the former things will not be remembered nor come into remembrance, which presents a problem. Does that mean that all of our loved ones that are in heaven we don't remember? The answer is we know our loved ones in heaven because Paul said we'll be known even as we were known. I'll know that's mom, I'll know that's dad, my brother and sister. Now the reason the former things will not be remembered is because if people we knew did not make it, how would heaven be delightful? If you had children that didn't make it. So I don't know how God does this, but if God can, this is what he told me. He says, son, if I'm able to look at a person and they ask me for forgiveness of sins and I can erase their sins and never bring them up or remember them, I can do the same thing with people's past. So in other words, there'll come a point, because it says no more tears will come in your eyes. At some point, everything about anything negative, anything that happened in your life bad, and the people who didn't make it, it will not be remembered.
You had another question, Ron.
It's actually a long question, a very good question. You talked about the link between Satan being cast out of heaven during the construction of the heavenly Jerusalem. Why would this cause such hatred for Israel in Jerusalem today?
I'm going to compare it to like a story. If I worked for a major corporation and I was the CEO over the whole thing, and they booted me out because of something I did wrong, if I didn't take the right attitude, I could cause a rebellion in the company, and I would hate that company the rest of my life. His hatred for Jerusalem is a continual reminder of his failure.
When we come back,